52 Launch Entrepreneur Insights webinar. We are coming to you live from our Pitch to Product podcast studio in Saxonville Mills here in beautiful Framingham, Massachusetts. I'm Steve Sisto alongside Jack Dalton, our business development manager here at 52 Launch. Jack, thank you for joining me.
Good to be here, Steve.
So for those of you who might be new to 52 Launch, we are a full-service consumer product development and original design manufacturing agency that partners with entrepreneurs and business owners to bring their product ideas to market. We handle every aspect of the product lifecycle, covering market research, branding, design, prototyping, manufacturing, all the way through the launch and beyond. Over the last 10 years, we have brought more than 730 products to life, totaling multiple millions of dollars in revenue for our clients. Now, today, Jack and I are talking all about intellectual property, covering trademarks, patents, and everything else that you need to know to protect your brand. So, Jack, let's get started. First of all, what does your role here at 52 Launch entail?
Yeah, well, it entails a whole bunch of things, Steve, but part of my job is finding relevant professionals that can help our clients beyond the scope of what we are actually allowed to provide. So as a non-attorney owned company, 52 Launch cannot provide legal services. And yet just about all of our clients need legal services, especially on the intellectual property front. So it's my job to research, vet, and then put our clients in touch with attorneys who are a good fit for their particular brand, their particular product, and them as a person, because often with patents and trademarks, you're going to be working with the same attorney for 20 years. So you might as well like the guy or girl. Yeah, we work with about 75 attorneys right now. I've talked to hundreds more this year. And yeah.
Yeah, so a 20-year relationship with a lawyer sounds pretty crazy. I mean, sometimes marriages don't even last that long. So why is it important for us to have that database of IP attorneys for our clients to work with? How do our clients benefit from that type of relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. So patent attorneys are pretty specialized. Most people don't know this, but the patent bar is its own bar exam, and it actually has a science or engineering portion to it. So patent attorneys are not only lawyers, they're also scientists or engineers. And because of that, they all have a specialty. So some specialize in chemical patents, some in electrical, some mechanical. There's a wide range of specialties among patent attorneys. And so, it makes sense to put somebody in touch with an attorney who's going to understand the intricacies of their product exactly, who's going to appreciate their brand vision, maybe who's been at a large company that one of our clients would like to scale up to. And a patent lasts 20 years. So there's some things you can do to extend them. But most of the time, a patent is a 20-year protection on your idea where nobody else is allowed to manufacture or sell it without your permission. And yeah, 20 years from your filing date, usually. And you've got to keep it updated in that time. So your attorney is not just filing for you, but updating the USPTO when things change. You have to renew it every couple of years. And so it makes sense to work with somebody who is going to stay on top of all of that. Now, it makes sense for us to work with a whole bunch of attorneys as well, because there's a huge range in pricing for how much a patent costs. You can go get a patent for $2 or $3 grand. You can also go and get one for 20 to 30 grand. So there's a range. We work with attorneys in about 35 different states right now. So if you're looking for somebody, we probably have somebody near you that we'd be happy to put you in contact with. Might as well say now, you can find us. If you look up 52 Launch Patent Attorneys, you can see the list of attorneys that we have worked with that we recommend. They, as far as I know, all offer free consultations, and just about all of them offer flat rates for their services. So feel free to check that out.
Yeah, we've also got a QR code that we can put up on the corner of a screen for you to scan and get in touch with us. So, Jack, how exactly does the client-attorney partnership work? What does the initial outreach look like? What do those first couple calls look like?
Yeah, so this is a key detail, is that 52 Launch clients are not working with an attorney through us. They're retaining their own attorney, who then becomes their attorney. Usually the process looks like one of those free initial consultations I mentioned. There's usually only about 3 follow-up calls for a trademark. Those usually can be filed in 2 to 3 weeks. With patents, it's a more iterative process, kind of going back and forth depending on where you're at in the development process. But we are kind of a partner to make sure that the attorney has everything that they need. So they need drawings, they need logo files, naming options. We're there to make sure that process with the attorney runs smoothly without kind of getting in the middle of it and like middlemaning.
That makes sense. So I think the umbrella term of intellectual property covers a lot. And I'm sure there's a lot of misconceptions between patents and trademarks and that sort of thing. You also touched upon some of the costs and timelines associated. So let's dive in specifically to what exactly is the difference between, say, a patent and a trademark.
Yes, this is actually a question I got last week. What is the difference between these? So this is pretty important on the intellectual property front. I'll start with trademarks. Trademarks are what attorneys call a source identifier for a particular good or service. Basically, what that means is trademarks are used to help the consumer understand where their product is coming from. So if you see a bag of coffee beans at the grocery store and it's got a big Starbucks logo on it, you can be pretty confident that those are going to be good coffee beans that are not going to have like contaminants in them. So nobody else is allowed to put Starbucks on their coffee because that would be like mislabeling the source of those goods. And so that's what a trademark is for. It's to, as you're building your brand, making sure that nobody else can present themselves as being you and selling similar products or similar services. Now, it's worth noting that with trademarks, you can have 2 companies that are the exact same name, same spelling, even if it's some like ridiculous spelling. You could have the exact same name if you're providing goods and services that could never be confused. So like if an airline and a string of coffee stores wanted to, I'm on coffee today.
Well, so Delta is a good example of that. There's Delta Airlines and there's Delta Faucets. They're completely different, but they're the exact same name.
Exactly. And so that is what trademarks are. You can trademark words, you can trademark logos, you can even trademark things like Taylor Swift just trademarked her voice. So there's kind of a range of things that are allowed to be trademarked, but they're generally pretty straightforward. They're not all that expensive. You can usually get one in less than a year if all goes well. We can get into timelines more later. But on the patent side, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but a patent is essentially a deal you make with the US government. And in exchange for publicly releasing the information on how to create and use your idea, nobody else is allowed to manufacture or sell it for 20 years. And it's interesting that patents are actually a negative right. And this might be deeper than we need to go today, but patents explicitly prevent anyone else from making or using your invention. There are cases in which you could get a patent that you are not allowed to make because it infringes on somebody else's intellectual property. But just worth noting that you got to be careful about what you patent. There's a lot of strategy around it. And overall, intellectual property is, people think about it in a lot of different ways, but the way that we think about it is it's all a business case. Like, if it doesn't make sense for you profitability wise to get intellectual property, you shouldn't even be thinking about it. If it's not part of an exit strategy, if it's not preventing people definitively from copying your product, like if a patent is too narrow, if you're protecting something really, really specific, then anyone else can design around it, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to make sure you're working with a good attorney. But yeah, basic difference. Patents are products or systems or processes and protecting how something is done. And trademarks are a source identifier. So they protect your brand, your logo, stuff like that.
So I think you brought up an interesting point where you said patents can be a negative almost. So does everyone need a patent right away, or there's at times it makes sense to maybe wait until your product is actually real and on the market and actually getting sales before you rush into the patent process?
Um, I'll say first, I am not an attorney. Everything here is my opinion. There's no legal advice here. Just trying to educate from the business point of view that we have at 52 Launch. But it's a bit of a difficult analysis because you have a pretty limited window to get a patent. So you have to decide very early on if you need one or not. And you never truly need one. I'd say 99% of products out there that are selling successfully are not patented. Most things that, are a new idea are not patentable because you can't patent something that is just a combination of two other things. That would be what they would consider obvious, even if it's not really all that obvious. So you do not need a patent. It is often a great idea. If you're thinking about licensing, I would say you probably do need one. If you're thinking about an exit strategy for your brand at some point after growing it, then a patent is a huge asset. And it all just comes back to a dollars and cents analysis of, a patent is usually more than 10 grand all in. Are you going to get that money back somehow? And if so, go for it. If you're struggling to see the path to that, then you don't need one to sell. As long as you're not infringing on anyone else's patents, you're good to go with that one.
That makes sense. Let's shift to public disclosure and how that can maybe affect your patent rights. There's a 1-year grace period. Is that correct on any public disclosure, which includes asking ChatGPT or Claude or simply typing your idea into a search engine such as an AI counts as public disclosure. And that can maybe be a shock to some people to suddenly say, wait, the clock is ticking for me now.
Right. This is an important point, is just because you've had an idea and you're the first one to have that idea doesn't mean you have the right to patent it forever if you tell people about it publicly. So if you have an idea that is patentable, as soon as you publicly disclose your idea, your invention, that could be a post on social media, that could be a website to kind of generate some interest around it, it could be a Kickstarter page, it could be going to a trade show and talking about it, shopping it around. Any sort of non-confidential discussions about your idea start a 1-year timer in which you are allowed to file for a patent. And it's so easy to publicly disclose an idea, right? I know for me personally, whenever I have a new business idea, I text 45 people about it right away. I'm not saying don't shop your idea, don't try and generate some, valuable feedback, but be aware that you are starting a 1-year clock. And if you're serious about it, you should probably get in touch with an attorney sooner rather than later, because it might take a while to fill out the application. There's a clock on it. And once it runs out, it's gone for good.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance to strike. You don't want to hold all of your ideas in too close to your chest, but at the same time, if you do talk to people, talk to potential investors or whatever, you got to make sure that you're prepared and ready for any legal challenges that might arise.
Absolutely. And, I did say kind of any non-confidential conversations would be public disclosure. Any conversations with an attorney are maximum confidential. So that would not start a clock. All conversations with 52 Launch are had after an NDA is signed.
Correct.
So those would all be confidential. That would not start a clock. And it's just generally good practice if you are going to shop your idea around, have an NDA available that you can have people sign before you disclose anything. And then you don't have to worry about it as much.
Makes sense. Let's wrap up the patent conversation with a little bit of discussion about utility versus design patents, provisional versus non-provisional patents. What's up?
Perfect. So I'll start with utility because that's what people think of when they think of patents. A utility patent protects how something works. So for a physical product, that could mean a whole bunch of different things. That could mean how the gears interact, what exact assembly of pins and arms create some sort of robot. It could mean literally millions of different things, and there are millions of different utility patents. There are two different types of utility patents, and I should be careful about how I say that because a provisional patent is often a good idea. This can help extend your kind of deadline to file a non-provisional utility patent. So provisional, like if you play golf, you hit a provisional sometimes. That's like, if I need this, then I have it.
Yeah.
A provisional is often very cheap. It's like a pared down version of a full patent, and nobody ever looks at it. It's a piece of paper that your attorney files on your behalf, and it goes and sits in a stack of paper at the US Patent and Trademark Office, and it holds your spot in line for another year. So let's say you publicly disclosed your idea 9 months ago. You're kind of running up against the clock on getting a patent filed. If you're not sure about the market viability of your idea yet and you don't want to spend kind of a significant amount of money on a patent, you can spend less on a provisional patent, which buys you a full year, additional year, where you can then convert that sort of to a full non-provisional utility patent, if that makes sense. You're basically saving your spot in line. It also gives you what's called a priority date, which is almost more important. And that just means the US is a first to file system as long as the people filing actually invented the thing. But if two people invent the same thing, the first one to file with the US Patent and Trademark Office wins and owns the idea. And even though nobody will ever look at your provisional application, you secure a filing date by putting a provisional application in. A non-provisional is the real full utility patent. So that is much longer. It's got detailed drawings. It's got what they call claims. Claims are exactly what you are protecting. And they're much more expensive. These actually they'll get submitted by your attorney. Hopefully, it's really generally not a good idea to file a utility patent yourself. Unless you have some real experience around it. So hopefully your attorney is filing a utility application. That'll sit in line for, depending on how much you pay to expedite it, which of course it does, it'll sit in line for anywhere from roughly 6 months to 15 months before a patent examiner looks at it. They'll read through, and hopefully what they say is, You've gone a bit too broad here on what you're asking me to protect for you. You need to make some revisions. And this is a bit counterintuitive, right? Because that's technically a rejection. If you get it through the first time, if your patent gets submitted and then it goes through and it's approved, what that usually means is you didn't ask for quite enough. You want to ask for just a little bit more than you know you can get. And every good patent attorney knows this. And they will explain it to you when you speak to them. But all that to say, don't be discouraged when you get that initial rejection, because that means your attorney is likely doing a good job and asking for a little bit more than they know they can get. But then they'll kick it back to the attorney. The attorney will make some adjustments. They might have to go argue with the examiner that this is in fact non-obvious or it is in fact new. And usually after a little bit of back and forth, it gets approved. It becomes available for people to contest for like a month or so. And I believe, fact check me on that. But then it gets approved and you have 20 years where you've got a monopoly on that idea. Okay, sorry, getting into design patents. I'll be quick with this because it's much more straightforward.
No, you're good.
Design patents just protect the way that something looks. So Ray-Ban's new Wayfarer sunglasses I'm sure have a design patent on them. nobody is technically allowed to make sunglasses that look exactly the same. People do, but they're not allowed to. And so that is actually a really strong intellectual property mechanism. Like if the design of your product is what makes it truly unique, a design patent is way easier to file. It's basically all pictures, actually. It's way cheaper, it's faster, and it's sometimes easier to litigate. So ask your attorney about design patents. They are generally a great strategy, especially if you're like a first-time solo inventor, and you've come up with something that looks really cool, or the physical design has something to do with how it works. They're a great idea to look into.
Jack, I don't know about you, but I hit a lot of provisional shots on the golf course, but I digress. You covered a ton, and I think it speaks to why partnering with an intellectual property attorney who knows the specifics of your product can be so beneficial. But
Absolutely.
let's transition now to trademarks. You covered this a bit earlier, but let's dive into what a trademark really is. Is it just the name, the logo? What does it cover?
Yeah, so I used those words before, source identifier. They exist to protect consumers in terms of when they buy something with a certain logo on it, they know where it actually came from. So I used that Starbucks coffee beans example at the grocery store, but branding is important. Like we know that at 52 Launch. Branding is a lot of what makes a business what it is. And yeah, you can trademark, you should trademark your name, you should trademark your logo. And it just lets people know that you're you and prevents anyone else from pretending to be you, which is pretty important when a lot of the time these days people are shopping online. It's like if there were two identical stores on Amazon that both had the same name, how would you know which one was real? And if there's a difference in the products that they're selling, you might end up super disappointed. And so trademarks are really nice because, like specifically on Amazon, if your brand is trademarked and somebody starts copying you, you can just get them kicked off. It's like a very straightforward process. I think you have to pay $500, which is a heck of a lot less than the 100 grand you would spend in court litigating.
True.
And because Amazon doesn't want to get in the middle of intellectual property disputes, they side with whoever's got the trademark, and all your copycats are gone before they can be, a real knock to your business.
It's nice when the system works like that.
Yes, it is.
So you mentioned a bit of the patent timing. How about trademarks? When should you file for your trademark?
You can file for your trademark as soon as you've got a name you like, if it's trademarkable. There are two ways to file trademarks. You can either file an in-use trademark, which means I'm operating under this name. These are the areas I do business in. And then you're good to go right from there. You can also file an intent to use trademark if you think the name is potentially competitive. And you can file your trademark and say, I will get back to you in the next 6 months when I start actually using this name in the commercial market that I'm operating in. And then they will kind of retroactively make it a full real trademark whenever you get back to them that you've started using it.
So you're putting a hold on the name essentially and saying, this is the name I will use down the road, and I just don't want anyone to steal it from me in the next 6 months.
Exactly. And because you can get trademarks for anywhere from, say, $1,400 to $3,500, if you're set on a name, just go trademark it, because in the grand scheme, if you wait to do it, bad things that can happen. If you build your brand over the course of 2.5 years, but never trademark your name, somebody else can trademark your name and then send you a cease and desist letter. Even if they just started doing business yesterday, they now own your name and you have to go through a full rebrand that you will likely lose customers over. So it's a great idea to get a trademark in place. The logo, similarly, I would say it's not quite as important as trademarking the name itself, but if you have a great logo that you like, you might as well trademark it and Try and make it as recognizable as possible.
Because the logo can sometimes almost be more memorable or familiar than the name itself. Like Nike, the swoosh is, you see it and you don't even ever have to see the word Nike. You see it and you know immediately what the brand is.
Yeah, that's good branding.
I mean, it'd be nice if everybody had.
I mean, yeah, Apple too. You see a logo of an apple and you think computers. That is,
right away.
that takes some doing. It's impressive stuff.
So let's take some time to talk a bit about the trademark spectrum: generic, descriptive, suggestive, arbitrary, fanciful. If I wanted to start a gas station brand, can I just call the name of the store gas station?
Yes, you're not allowed to do that, right? Because you're now owning the name that you're trademarking across the US. So if it's common or generic words, the USPTO won't let you do that because that would be unfair to everyone else. So you also can't be overly descriptive about what you're selling. So
you can't have a running shoe called carbon fiber plated running shoe.
Right.
That's the name of my brand.
You could not trademark a product name. Exactly. And so further down that spectrum that you went through, suggestive, arbitrary, and fanciful are the types of names that are allowed. So fanciful would be something like way off the deep end. I think Exxon is considered fanciful. Haagen-Dazs is considered fanciful because despite it sounding like words in another language, those are completely made up words. And those are technically the strongest trademarks. Obviously, people tend to want more descriptive names because then people understand what they're selling just as soon as they hear the brand name. So there's a balance there that you have to strike between not completely obfuscating what your brand does, but also making it unique enough that you're allowed to trademark it.
Certainly makes a lot of sense. Great. Jack, you covered a ton of information. Thank you. For anyone interested in partnering with one of our network of intellectual property attorneys, what should they do?
You can look up 52 Launch Patent Attorneys. You'll find that page right at the top of search results. We've got quite a few attorneys on there that would all be an excellent resource to your business. I encourage you to have those conversations sooner rather than later, especially because they are free consultations. You'll learn a lot, certainly more than you learned from me today. So yeah, as a reminder, this is all my personal opinions, what I've learned from talking to patent attorneys. No legal education, no legal advice. Yeah, thank you, Steve.
Yeah. Jack, how many calls with patent attorneys have you had over the last couple months even?
Oh, I've talked to at least 300 in the last couple of months.
Wow.
So yeah, that list on our website is a select few. People primarily that are a especially good fit for first-time inventors, startups. Yeah.
So there's a good chance whoever's watching, there's an attorney that we've spoken with near them that they can reach out to.
Absolutely. I think we've got people in at least 50 different cities, maybe 60. So yeah, feel free to reach out if you'd like a direct introduction as well.
Yep. Absolutely. Go ahead and do that. Also, Jack, your email is jdalton@52launch to reach out to him directly. And if you'd like to book a consultation, a free consultation with one of our sales members, go to 52launch.com/contact to do that. We'd love to hear your ideas and partner with you to bring your product to launch. Once again, I'm Steve Sisto alongside Jack Dalton. This has been a 52 Launch Entrepreneur Insights webinar. We'll see you next time.